Good day, everyone. This is the next episode of the Heroes podcast, and I have someone special here. Hi, Heather. How you going?
I'm great. How are you?
Good to see you. So, Heather is a full-time travel coach, and she is helping people to break out of their job to actually live life in total freedom. Welcome on the show.
Thank you.
So, Heather, tell us, how did this happen that you are not just living the dream, you are teaching or helping people to do something around the same? Why did you start this?
Well, when I started traveling full time, it was 2018, and I had spent years wanting to quit my job and travel, but thinking it was absolutely insane, ridiculous. My head just talked me out of it. I was looking for a mentor, like someone to show me how this is done. And everyone I saw was like 20, 30 years old. And I'm like, yeah, like maybe I'm too old for this. I came up with all these excuses. And ultimately, uh, I thought I was taking a career break, but it's now been 5 years. And once I realized that this was a real way of life, and the pandemic happened, and I was realizing that when this pandemic is quote unquote over, there's going to be this surge of people that want to travel. And I kind of foresaw that a lot of people, that combined with all of the epiphanies that the staying at home has given people, I think a lot more people are going to want to do this. So I'd like to be the mentor that I wish I had had when I first started, because it's it's kind of insane, right? It's less insane now. It's more acceptable what I'm doing, but it's also not something I would advise you just sort of say, I think I'll clock out and take off next week and try this full-time travel thing.
Well, I love it. And I can absolutely relate to your experience because this is exactly I was struggling with. I've lived in 4 countries. I traveled 65 and I didn't
Wow.
know how I could make this a long time journey, although now I'm kind of married, so now this is even more difficult and complicated. But tell us, what were the biggest struggles for you to come to resolve to be able to get to this place?
I'd say my mind was the biggest thing. And that's why, like, when I coach people, I start with mindset, because I was constantly having this battle between head and heart. And so, my heart would be like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to just like quit my job and travel? And my head would be like, how are you going to pay your rent? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, right. And then it's like, how are you going to get health insurance? It was all these logical questions that I had been trained to believe that how am I going to do that? How will I survive without health insurance? How will all these things? Um, so that was a huge, huge struggle. The other struggle was, I think when our heart calls us to do something that in the moment is less accepted and less normal, that's the time when you start looking at who you've surrounded yourself with, and people that love and care about you kind of want you to stay where you are, and they have a hard time letting you go. So the second struggle was like, oh gosh, how am I going to like fess up to all these people that I want to do this? And learning to focus the people that I shared what I was doing with on the people I knew that would accept it, and then branch out. Like, as I got closer to creating the reality, then I could, more widely talk about it.
Well, Heather, you've come at the best time with this podcast because from March, I'm looking to travel for a year in Europe. I have 2 children. We are homeschooling. I have no clue how we're going to do this, although I'm looking to kind of maybe buy a caravan to have some kind of
Yep.
comfort. And tell me, so have you ever felt disempowered or lack of self-worth to be able to really get traction and moving towards the life that you want?
Yeah. I think so. It's funny because absolutely, I think I had work to do. It was a leap of faith for me to quit, because I really, I think society, at least the society I'm from, doesn't like I don't know. It's a big problem. And so when you don't know the answer, you're supposed to just stay stuck, because that's safer than jumping into this abyss where anything can happen. And by the way, when you visualize that abyss, it's always negative. Only bad things happen in the abyss when you're standing at the edge. But once you jump, it's like, oh, this isn't an abyss. This is like a whole realm of creation. And it took me a long time to believe in myself enough to make that jump and start realizing, instead of talking myself down, like there was a moment where it was actually through pain. And I had a pain in my chest in 2017 that made me recall a pain in my neck from several years earlier, that became 2 herniated discs because I didn't do anything. We all know, like, when you have emotional pain, you don't deal with it, it becomes physical. So when the chest pain came, I was like, oh yeah, I'm not letting this go any further. I'm done. I'm out. This is it. And that it was like I was essentially me committing to listen to my heart. And once I did that, when I heard the voice that was like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if, but I know, how are we going to afford it? Then this other voice came in. Well, what if you make more money because you do this? What if, like presenting all these positive viewpoints. And I was like, who is that? And where have you been? So it was very challenging. And it was a journey. And in my first year of travels, I do think when you radically shift your life, it is like the hero's journey. And especially if you're solo traveling, perhaps because more so than if you're traveling with someone, because you have all your time to focus on you. I confronted a lot of like inner demons, and one of them was also still self-worth, but in other areas. And it's hard. It's hard when you reach these areas. And I'm lucky that I've done a lot of personal work. So I had the courage to go into it and be like, oh gosh, yeah, I need to work on this. And then do the work.
Very powerful. Heather, I love how you describe this, because some of my work is talking about that true self, that inner voice that has been muted for a lot of people. Like because I've helped people around clarity, and then I ask people, and I'm talking about 7 out of 10, like, what do you want? They have no idea.
No idea.
The I don't know answer keeps them where they are, exactly where they are. And I don't know means I don't have to do anything.
Yes.
And that is the end of life at that point.
And I think I don't know is, I know exactly what I want. I just don't believe I can have it. So I'm actually not even going to bother saying it because it's too sad.
Yes, I think it brings up all of the programming in the way, we could say, those limiting stories that you've had probably in your head, that chatting voice that is the hard rationalist. How are we going to afford this? What is going to happen with the stuff that we own? So I'm very excited to help you, to have your voice out, to wake up. I'm hoping millions of people to be able to grab and seize the day, seize the life that they want. How are you doing this? Like what is your approach? Are you just traveling around and you do podcasts, or you get onto stages, or help us?
Yeah, so I just did my first TEDx talk, so that was exciting. I was like, woo, year and a half. Nice. from starting to write it to do, yeah. But I talk about the benefits of living nomadically. So definitely stages is where I want to be, and I'm always looking for speaking opportunities to do that. I'm on lots of podcasts because yes, I would love to reach lots of people and let them know that yes, this is a real thing. It's not crazy. It can really happen. And then networking, but primarily I like the speaking route and the podcast route.
Very powerful. And how do people find you? Do they just get in touch with you through social media, or how does this work?
So, I mean, it's an ever enlarging thing, right? So I'm on YouTube and I'm doing more and more videos on YouTube. Some are about my actual travels and some are about the lifestyle of full-time travel. And I'm just about at my 1,000 subscribers. like, so, and then I, through the speaking and the podcasting, people are starting to find me. I also have a big Facebook group. So there's like sort of multitudes of ways. The networking now I'm starting, I always like to think about when we want to create change, we need to also change. And so where have I been in the same space that's actually not getting traction, and where can I move to that I haven't been before that I can, expand? So always looking for those new circles that I can try, even if it's just once, just to go try it out, see what I learn, who I meet, and go from there.
And how do you teach? Do you work one-on-one, or do you have an online course? What is the way to get engaged with you, and ways to, break out of that old identity or old life?
So I do both. I have for people that kind of just want to get their feet wet and sort of go at their own pace and check this out. I have an ebook and I have 2 online programs. So that is a great sort of first level. And the 3 programs, the ebook to the programs, it's sort of primarily focusing around the money, like how do you afford the full-time travel, although one of them is specifically designed for those people that are in corporate that or not just corporate, but in a full-time job, might want to leave that job, and understanding all of the radical shifts that you go through in thought process, in money, in just how you view so many things in the world. So it's designed to help someone get comfortable with that change and transition into it. But the primary way that I love working with people is one-on-one or even groups, because it's just so much easier to make headway. And in my opinion, there's so many pieces that are instrumental to making this lifestyle happen. And so when I work together with someone, it's very much about you. It's not a generic, try this, do this. It's like, well, here's your circumstances. And now that we know what you particularly want, we can put this into the recipe that we're making for you. So I have a core program that's 3 months long, where I focus on what I feel are the 3 essential parts of transitioning to this lifestyle, which are mindset, money, and mastery. Mindset, what are the belief systems holding you back from believing you can even do this? What are the fears that you have? Money is very much looking at like what, how much budget do you need? Where's it coming from? How are you going to do this? And then the mastery is all those logistical pieces like, well, what should I pack? What am I going to do with my stuff? Do I keep my home? Do I give it, all those like realistic, day-to-day kind of concerns that one has. So, and then for other people who just don't want to go through a program, maybe they just want a conversation. I just have a like one-off session as well, where we can talk about a specific challenge to living the lifestyle, or what I call travel side maintenance, where you've left and oops, like something unexpected happened, or maybe even you thought you were going to do this life for 6 months and you've suddenly realized, oh my gosh, I want to keep going. Well, how can I make a plan to realign and sustain what I'm doing longer?
Well, I love it. I had my experience was, and it's only mine. When I traveled and I did a few trips around Asia, I realized that the 3-month mark, it was too tiring. I did not want to keep living from a backpack. That was my experience. So it's a very valid challenge for a lot of people. But maybe if you want to expand on this, as well as there's another point here that I think is a massive challenge for a lot of people that I come across, is from employee, they need to become an entrepreneur to build a new life on inner certainty, to be able to probably serve or market themselves in a brand new way, because they are not paid by the hour. Tell me, what is your take on this? these two?
Oh, absolutely. I think I mean, look, remote work is finally acceptable, which is great. And if it had been back when I quit, maybe I'd be a remote worker now and traveling that way. But if you're not doing that and you want a break, and you want to make money while you're traveling, you do need to adapt this entrepreneurial mindset, which is why that is part of actually that second program that I mentioned, because it's so important. That entrepreneurial mindset is in fact what will get you the money and what will also allow you to sustain everything. But it's tricky, right? Because there's so much wrapped up in it, because it's not just about learning about the flow of money, but I'll tell you what, consumerism is also a huge thing. That, like, when you have a job with reliable income and reliable increments, you buy differently. So you also have to learn how to change, get a lot more awareness to your spending habits, and also think about, what do you really need? Because when you have a job, you have the luxury of just being like, well, I don't really need this Nintendo, but it's so cool, I want it, right? So now suddenly you have to start thinking about, well, how is this Nintendo going to help me travel full time? Is it worth it? That kind of stuff. So it's
I love
very
it.
different.
Would you say it is not just an entrepreneurial journey, but more around probably getting to the true self, a true purpose in life? Do you see that happening parallelly, from getting them out from stuck in a job that probably does not serve them, and then tap into this new purpose that they may have already been waiting for them for a long time? How do you see that?
Yeah, so I talk about this in my TEDx talk too, because
Okay.
one of the things that held me back from quitting for a while was, I need to have a purpose to my travel. I can't just quit and travel. There has to be a reason. And I couldn't find one. I was just like, oh, until eventually I was like, oh, the reason is I was going to quit my job to run my business full time, and to get to the point where my business was ready to do that, I just kind of burnt out, and I was like, oh, and I'm not even liking what I see that I'm doing. Like, I just feel totally like I need to recenter. So I think that part of this journey is very much about figuring out, like, actually just allowing, I should say, because what I learned was, we are trained to focus on a destination and a goal and live our life that way. And what, for me, I think of full-time travel in many ways as an adult vision quest. And what you thought, see, the thing is, when you don't know, when you realize you don't understand the meaning and purpose of your life, and you're looking for that, well, and now I realize it doesn't make sense to define it in advance. If you knew what it was, you'd be doing that. If you don't know, you have to allow it to happen, and it will happen. You can't plan it. It just will happen. Like, it'll be, oh, I thought I was supposed to go left, and oh, I was supposed to go right. Like, I had no idea. So it's really about being open to allowing, and not controlling.
Yeah, it's very powerful, and it's an evolution. That's my understanding, and I think a lot of people have that, maybe from school, that type of attitude that I need to get it right, and
Yes.
there's no clarity from that place. Clarity comes when one starts to take action, sometimes uncomfortable action, towards the life that they want. They will get more and more information and clarity and feedback about, this works for me, this doesn't work for me. So let me ask you this. Where are you now? I just realized I need to know.
Right at the moment, I'm in New York City. I just had knee surgery, so I'm recovering.
Oh, back kind of in the US. And
Yeah.
have you got any trips or tricks or tips to people who are, they have that small inner voice saying, well, there must be more than this. And now these days they are still going into that office job for years, probably, maybe for a decade. Like, give us something that could start to grow
Yeah.
that seed in their mind?
I'll tell you what, and this is inspired, this is something I did, and inspired by, I forget the author's name, but there was someone that wrote this amazing book about like the 5 biggest regrets people have when they're dying.
Yeah, my favorite
And
book.
yeah, and what's the title again?
Uh,
Do you know?
Byrne. Her name is Rhonda Byrne. No,
Is it? It could be.
she's an Australian woman because I'm
Okay,
down here in
so
Australia.
you know the book. It's
Yes, I will drop it under the video so everyone can access it, because I actually promote the book. I should get commission for it. I've been selling it probably
yeah.
for her.
So that got me thinking and being afraid of becoming 90 years old and looking back at my life and wondering what would have happened if I had had the courage to follow my heart. And it just started weighing down on me. And I realized the year that I quit, I realized if I don't quit this year, I'm not going to. I'm actually going to start going the other way and make peace with the fact that I didn't have the courage and just keep going. So the exercise I would recommend that anyone listening do is write your obituary. Write it as if you died yesterday, and write down what you would want to be remembered for. From the most, like, write it as if it's all happened. Like, yes, I was, I came up with a new recipe for, jelly beans, and I was, a hero, and I don't know, whatever your thing is, right? Write it like that. And once you write it, then you can look at it and see, is this how you're living your life now? And if not, if you've written a whole bunch of things that you're actually not doing yet, then, if you're not okay dying without being able to do what it takes to be remembered for those things, that can be the beginning of your inspiration to make some serious changes.
I love it, Heather. I mean, I take it to the very extreme, and I must have scared people, because I started to promote this deathbed exercise, which is actually having those last few moments in life. And now look back and ask yourself what you are doing today. Now, how does that going to feel at that point where you have no time left, nothing to do, you have that absolute clarity? And if you live aligned to that, keep going. But if you're not, the time is ticking away, and it's really fast. And maybe it's faster and faster for each of us. So what else would you want to share about this transformation from stuck in a job to living the life of design?
Stuck in a job or anywhere, right? That's what we know. And it's sort of like, what the rest of your life will be like if you stay there. To me, life is about living. And if you don't feel like you're really living, then I would say, take that step to creating that purposeful life that you want. And with traveling, this can be done, one of the easiest first steps to do towards, is this the right life for me, is you could take all of your annual leave at one point. You could start with a small sabbatical. You could just take a chunk, just get a footprint of a taste of it, and see if you like it without actually fully committing to it. It's really easy to what I did my first year of committing, once I made that commitment to listen to my heart and follow it, I just said, I'm going to spend this year. If I think I'm going to do this, I better make some huge, courageous steps. I don't know what they are, but when they appear, I'm going to take them. That's my commitment. And sure enough, they showed up, and sure enough, I took them, and each one allowed me to be a little stronger to go to the next one. So I pass that on to you.
I love that, Heather. I've met when I was traveling a few times, and a lot of times I've come across a few French people. It just came to me that they said to me, according to their, I don't know, regulations, if one works at a certain place for 5 years, they are allowed and promoted to have one gap year to
Yes.
do whatever they want and go back. Like, I wasn't even aware of it, especially not from Hungary, where everyone is hanging onto the seat. Like, probably you could, I don't know what country are you listening to this from, but do a little research. What have you found about that, Heather?
Yeah, so I talk about that in my TEDx talk too, because places like New Zealand, where I lived 2 years, and places like Australia, which are far from the world, actually want their youth to go and travel for a year. And this is a big thing, is that the whole reason I did the TEDx is because I realized we have all these processes in place for young people to go in some places, right? To go, there's vision quests, to go and figure out, like, to come into their adulthood. But we don't have many processes in adulthood to actually, we're living longer. So it's natural that we're starting to reach this point in midlife where we're like, well, what next? I got to do something different. We call it a midlife crisis. There's medication, there's therapy, but that's it. And so I feel like full-time travel could be, for some people, a really wonderful tool to explore the what next when you're in midlife. There's nothing like full-time travel to put you in touch with who you are and who you want to be, who you're not being that you wish you were, and put you in touch with how resourceful and amazing you are. Because, man, you will get into crazy situations and you will see who you are when you do each one. And when you come out of each one, you're like, whoa, I did what? And if I can do that, then I must be able to do this.
I really love how you've explained this to me, because I believe for a while I wasn't aware consciously, but I've been traveling to challenge my beliefs and really use traveling as a personal development tool. And I got pretty uncomfortable traveling on my own to extreme places, and I've learned heaps about my own preconceptions, sometimes prejudices that I was scaring in me. And every time I came back, I realized, wow, I'm not the same person anymore. So yeah, definitely, I mean, you're really on the ball, and I believe there is millions millions and millions of people will want to hear your story and how you're able to elevate their life with all of the concepts that you have in place. So tell us, where do we find you? If someone is listening now, tell us the secrets, website, contacts. How do we get in touch with you?
Sure. Well, the easiest is if you want to have a chat, because that's always, it's nice to understand what you, the individual, wants. If you go to fromdesk-to-destiny.com, it takes you right to my scheduling tool, and you can just click there and set up a time that works for you. Because you know what, the first great step that you can make is talk to someone that actually not only believes in you, but knows that you really can have this lifestyle. So that's the best place. And then from there, you'll see, you can jump around my website, which will tell you more about me, and you can read my blog and do other things. So that's the best way. And also you can check out my YouTube channel, which is just youtube.com/Heather Markel. And there are all kinds of videos about my travels, about, full-time travel life. So those are probably two easy ways to learn more about me.
And Heather, what would you want to be celebrating in 5 years? I was just thinking, yeah, you really live in this freedom bubble. Like, what is the next big jump or goal for you?
I would love to be celebrating being, on some big stages and being, known for inspiring people and helping them transform their lives into being more meaningful and purposeful, and especially with full-time travel. But that could be other things, just inspiring people to believe in their own dreams and pursue them.
I love it. Have you got any last golden nuggets, any last sort of takeaways that you really want to give as a last sort of gift to people listening now?
I think that if you can get comfortable with that I don't know and make it okay, make it this space that you love, it will radically change your life. So rather than being afraid of the I don't know, be excited about it, play with it, because it is the biggest space of creation, creativity, and where your heart can exist in conjunction with your head, because the greatest thing you can do in life is get the two to work together instead of fighting against each other.
Very powerful. And that resonates big time, because I talk a lot about, making peace, not giving up the battlefield. Well, Heather, thank you very much for your time. I will
Thank
drop
you.
all your details under the video. And of course, if you're listening to this, if you got hurt, she will get you out of the old life and build a new one. Thank you very much, Heather. I really loved connecting with you.
Thank you. I loved being here. Thank you for having me.